I'm so happy to be here. I think this is such an important event for Jordan. I want to thank TEDx, and I want to thank Zaid and all of the volunteers for this. This has been an extraordinary experience. I didn't know what to call what I want to talk about, so I called it thought structure, but it could be many things. And a lot of the things that we've heard today are actually included in what I'm about to say. And that makes me happy because other people are getting the same types of ideas that I have over the past 19 years. I've been an entrepreneur since 1988, 86 actually. I've started over 21 companies. Arabian Business Consultants for Development is probably company number 21. Most of them have failed, so I fit the profile of failure. And what I'm trying to communicate to you today are things that I've learned and connections that I've made that I hope will be very interesting for you. In my presentation, I'm going to be talking about a variety of people, Einstein, Descartes, Newton, Hawking, Darwin, and Schumpeter. Einstein was mentioned earlier. Darwin was mentioned earlier. And I've learned something from each of these characters. They have each helped me make some sort of a connection for me to be able to build my knowledge, to build my understanding of things. Now, the human character, in my belief, is to think. I think that's what we were put on this earth for. I think we think. And René Descartes, one of the philosophers I was talking about, said, "I think, therefore I am." And that is the belief that the main human activity, our essence, is to think. It enables us to build, it enables us to progress. And it's the basis for creativity and innovation. Art, music, science, dance. These are all things that are related to thinking. And it has great economic importance for entrepreneurs because it is the basis of innovation. It is what enables us to come up with new ideas to solve problems. The "I bet there's a better way of doing this" is all part of innovation. Now, humanity has witnessed 3 different revolutions. Several 100,000 years ago, human beings were hunters and gatherers. We killed animals and we ate them. We took things out of the ground, potatoes, we gathered fruit, we ate that. But then humans began recognizing the cycle of nature, that when it rains, and then the sun comes out, that plants grow. And so they figured out that if you take these hard things in plants and you put them in the ground, that you get plants out of it. And that was the beginning of the agricultural revolution, and we began to understand how to manipulate nature for our benefit, for humans' benefit. And cities began evolving, and the quality of life of people increased. Then we had the Industrial Revolution at the end of the 1700s, where we began understanding how to manipulate processes. Previous to the Industrial Revolution, people who manufactured things manufactured single units. They either did pottery, 100 vases a month, or they did swords or something like that. It was not very well organized, it was not very well mechanized, but they learned in the Industrial Revolution how to manipulate processes. And that employed people, more people worked in factories. Again, the quality of life went up. And over the past 30 years, we've been witnessing something which we now call the information revolution. The computers, the PCs, the internet, the cell phones, all of this is the fruit of the information revolution. And this is manipulating data. We send packets of data from here to there, we do something with the data. So this got me thinking that when you look that we've been manipulating nature, manipulating processes, manipulating data, that we're moving closer and closer towards our essence, manipulating thought. And we've moved from survival, from killing animals and eating them, to knowing how to plant and how to raise animals, to manufacturing, towards higher level activities. And so I was thinking maybe we are about to witness a 4th revolution, a revolution in how we think. I think that if we are able to think better than anybody else, that we should be able to progress faster and further. And so it is manipulating knowledge and making connections. How do you connect things together? And the speaker before me spoke about using the Quran, and I think that's a fabulous method. Okay. There is in learning theory something called a thought structure, and it's about how we think and how we learn. And you create connections, and you create something called knowledge structures, which are behind me. You will see the little blue circle is a concept, and the little lines emanating from the circle are ideas or experiences that make you understand this specific item. So if we think of a dog, which is the idea, dogs sometimes are lazy, they're loyal, they protect the home, they bark, they have ears, they have a tail, sometimes they bite, they have 2 eyes, 4 legs. All of these describe to us what a dog is. And because we understand this, we can start creating metaphors. We can say that the tail is wagging the dog when something small is making big impacts on an institution or on a situation. Or we say the dog's bark is worse than its bite, meaning that what's happening, what we hear, is more effective or more impressive than what's actually happening. And sometimes we say it's a dog day afternoon when it is a lazy, warm afternoon, because that's usually when dogs lay on the ground. So you see connections between ideas, concepts, characteristics in the thought. Sometimes you see it only in hindsight. Earlier today, somebody was talking about humor and the basis for humor. And because it is in our essence to think, we enjoy jokes, particularly when we understand the thought connections after thinking about it. So there were 3 men that were convicted of murder, and they were to be executed by firing squad. So the captain of the firing squad got the convicted murderer, the first one, and he got the people with the rifles to shoot him. And he said, ready, ready, aim. And the convicted felon said, earthquake. Tornado here. And so everybody ran away. The firing squad ran away. The captain ran away, and so did the convict. They gathered everybody back. And they said, ready, aim. And the second convict yelled, earthquake in this case. And everybody ran away again. The third convict, they brought him, they said, ready, aim, and he said, fire. And of course, they shot him and he was dead. So it's only after you understand that fire is a disaster, like a tornado and an earthquake, that you understand the humor, because it's also the third command of the firing squad. Now, in 1988, I was flying from Amman to New York, and I was reading a book by Stephen Hawking called The Brief History of Time from the Big Bang to the Black Hole. And this book was talking about the creation of the universe. It used the famous equation E equals mc squared, where energy and mass are interchangeable. And it explained that light sometimes acts as a particle and sometimes as a wave. And in the book, Hawking said that I'm not sure what happened, but at the beginning of the creation of the universe, the singularity, what they called the Big Bang, I think it started with a pulse of light. Now, I thought this was curious, because in the Bible, in Genesis, it said, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and now the earth was formless and empty, darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters, and God said, let there be light. And there was light. And this similarity got me thinking, because I was wondering, what was the world's preeminent physicist? He came to the same conclusion as a text of a religious book that was written 3,500 years ago. Both believe at the beginning of the creation of the universe that there was light. And the question was why? How did they come to this conclusion? And this brought me to the concept of what's called the big fuzzy ball. All human endeavor, I think, is an attempt to describe, understand, and or deal with reality. And so we look at it from a variety of places. Those of us who understand chemistry talk about the reality they see in a chemical point of view. Those who are very good in writing literature speak about reality from the point of view of literature. Those in mathematics describe reality through mathematics, religion, physics, etc., dance, any of that. So how you perceive reality and how you communicate it depends on the tools that you are most comfortable using. And so we all perceive the same reality but describe it in different ways. And this means to me that solutions to challenges and understanding can come from different perspectives. And this is the heart of what my talk is about. Oops, sorry. France Telecom in the 1990s was trying to find a way to optimize their cellular network structure. And they had a bunch of scientists trying to create algorithms to understand how to send packets of information and how to make the best use of the network that they had in France. And of course in France, because it's a large country, you have thousands of towers for the GSM network, and it becomes a very, very difficult mathematical equation to deal with. And what happened is one of the engineers from France Telecom actually met and sat with a guy who studied ants. We saw ants in the previous lecture. And they found out that ants are able to find the fastest way from the anthill or the ant colony to food. And the way that they do this is when the ant leaves the colony, it leaves a scent behind it. And the first ant that comes back, that scent is twice as strong as the ones that have left, and so the ants know that this one found the fastest food to the colony, and they all start going there. This gave an idea for the guy in France Telecom, the basis for the algorithm to send out a test packet from the cell phone to bounce on all of the towers. The one that came back first was the one that found the quickest way. And so something from the ant kingdom had application in telecommunications. Also, Nippon Electronics Company, NEC, in the 80s was developing silicon chips, silicon wafers for their electronics. And they kept on doing these chips, and you have to fire them. You do them, you put them in a kiln, and you fire them. And about 70% of them were breaking or deforming. And again, they got all sorts of people from universities to try to figure out the material aspects of silicon wafers and to design them in a way that they wouldn't break or bend. And the PhDs in the universities tried and tried and tried and tried, but they couldn't solve it. Then one of them sat with one of the old masters who used to work بالصلصال, with ceramics. Somebody who had spent 30 years making vases or making plates, and asked him, how would you solve this? And so somebody with no scientific background or limited background was able to provide the methodology of manufacture for NEC that all of the scientists and the engineers that they have were unable to do. And again, it's information or knowledge from a different area that solves a problem in another area. Now, Einstein said, you can never solve a problem on the same level on which it was created. You need new thinking and new knowledge to solve these issues. And interestingly enough, my fuzzy ball, he also said, and I only found this out recently, that all religions, arts, and sciences are branches of the same tree, the tree of knowledge. So if you think about this, we have in karma, if you understand the concept of karma, in religion and Newton's third law of science or of motion, karma says that what goes around comes around, and yet in Newton's third law it says that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. I find this to be very interesting. Also, Charles Darwin, the great naturalist, said that it is not the fastest, nor the strongest, nor the smartest species that survives, it is the most adaptable that survives. And Joseph Schumpeter, an Austrian economist who came up with a concept of creative destruction, said that old technologies die out and are replaced by new technologies that have more usefulness. And so I saw similarities between what Darwin and Schumpeter We're both proposing one for natural sciences about birds and fish and finches, and the other one about the state of an economy. So I think the coming challenges, the next revolution may be in how we think, the thought revolution. And the question that we need to ask ourselves is, how do we find similarities and lessons that can be applied across disciplines, multidisciplinary? The previous speaker was talking about the application of ants to traffic problems, the application of knowledge about bees to construction problems. He is using the Quran as a base for problems in civil engineering. This is not a connection that people would normally make. So how do we facilitate connections like we saw with ants and networks, physics and religion, pottery and semiconductors, and even music and sound and medicine together? I have a friend of mine who's been using music, trying to use music as a way to promote healing in humans, and has found some success with that. Again, it's not an obvious connection. So what do we need to do? We need to seek variety. And TED is a perfect venue for this. I have heard so many interesting things today. It has really expanded the way I think more. We need to read more, we need to watch more, we need to listen more, we need to surf the internet more, we need to interact more. And we need to look for patterns and similarities, and this is how the human learns best, going back to knowledge structures. So today, more than ever before, we have access to information on the web that we never had. And of course, things like TED and TEDx. And what we need to do is to find what I'm going to call rabbit holes, new sources of information, go down them, and you will be amazed at what you will learn. You will be amazed at the linkages you can make with your area of interest or expertise. And I think this is how you build innovative businesses, and this is how you improve competitiveness of your companies. Thank you very much.